right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, let's start off with a positive story here. Big Ramy arriving back to his home country of Egypt. Just like last year, getting a hero's welcome back home. Now, we already talked about the fact that Ramy had an entire city square named after him in Egypt, but I wanted to share some of these photos and videos with you of his actual flight and his airport trip back home. It was interesting. They actually blocked off the entire business class of his plane with photos of Big Ramy on it. So I thought that was pretty cool that they kind of cleared the plane. They greeted him at the airport. It was just a really cool thing, and this is kind of exactly what happened last year. He got this big hero's welcome when he got back. And it's inspiring to see because over in the Middle East, it's really different than how bodybuilding is treated over here in the States. Granted, bodybuilding fans here in the States treat these guys like celebrities, but overall, a bodybuilder goes to the airport here, really no one probably knows who they are at the airport. And then he gets back and he's swarmed with people. He has a bus that picks him up with "Winter is Here" stamped on the side of the bus. Granted, that was it looks like that was provided by his sponsor, KO Squad, but still, very cool to see. And it makes you wonder, I think the question that is on everybody's minds from now until the next Olympia is, will this be the reign of Big Ramy? Is this the beginning of the Big Ramy era? Is Winter here to stay for a long time? Now that he's the two-time champ, how many more can he win if he wins anymore? But overall, just really cool to see. Wanted to share that with you guys. Really positive story and really happy to see Big Ramy getting that kind of support at home. So give this video a thumbs up for Big Ramy. The champ is here. Now, next up in the news, let's talk about Regan Grimes. We've got some posing updates, some posing videos from Regan at about a week out from this show coming up, the Legion Sports Festival, which is going to be happening this weekend. Now, we know that Regan is already working with a different coach for this show. He's working with Milos Sarshev for this Legion Sports Fest. And look, I talked to some people around Regan, and they say that he's going to come in a lot tighter and a lot drier than he was at the Olympia. They think he kind of missed the mark on conditioning. He wasn't as sharp as he should have been. And as a result, Regan actually ended up tying his placing from last year of 15th at the Olympia. Now, this Legion Sports Fest we already know is going to be an interesting one. Sean Clarita, the 2020 212 Olympia champ and this year's Olympia runner-up in 212, he's going to be switching to men's open bodybuilding for that show. So what I think would be a really interesting call-out would be Regan versus Sean. And I kind of said this before, typically when you've got a guy that places close to last place at the Olympia, you're not thinking about how good his physique looks. But when you look at Regan, you're not saying, man, that guy was 15th. He looked awful. He still has that great structure. He's still got those great lines. You still see the potential that Regan really has. So even when he gets a bad placing like this, and I would say that 15th is a bad placing for Regan because he could be placing, honestly, as high as top 6 if he were to really nail that conditioning and really just not miss the mark like he has been. So even though he's getting a placing like that, you can still see the potential in his physique, and hopefully he does tighten up for this Legion show and come in a million times better than the Olympia. And I think it'd be cool to see this comparison with Sean because obviously he's much bigger, much taller, much different physique than Sean has. But Sean has that crazy conditioning. So imagine if Regan can bring it from a conditioning standpoint to the degree that Sean Clarita, that we know that Sean Clarita is able to bring it. That would be interesting. And then imagine if Regan is able to beat Sean at this show. Regan is he's one of the guys that I'm really watching going into the show because you've got guys like Cedric, you've got Max Charles, you've got Sergio Oliva Jr., you've got Patrick Moore. These are guys that I think wouldn't be impossible for Regan to beat. Now, I don't know if we've ever seen Regan versus Sergio now that I'm thinking about it. But, Regan versus Cedric might be a little bit tough. But Regan and Patrick, very close in placings at the Olympia. I could also see Regan beating Max if he nailed it. But it'll just be interesting to see, and he's a guy that I've got my eye on because, honestly, I still see that potential. He's so young. He's got the structure's crazy. The lines are crazy. We just really haven't seen him nail it yet. And he's had a lot of ups and downs in his career. Remember, he switched to classic physique a few years back. He blew up to like 300 pounds. He was with the Camel Crew for a while, got up to like 300-something pounds, came back down, did classic physique, switched back over to men's open bodybuilding. So he's had a lot of crazy ups and downs in his career. I'm just going to be really looking to see what he's able to do over the next couple weeks, and hopefully he's able to get this Olympia qualification very early on by winning an early show like the Legion show. And I'm told he's doing another show overseas in Dubai, I believe, the following week. So it looks like his goal is going to be to try to get another early qualification like he did last year. But I'm definitely pulling for Regan. I'm definitely wishing him the best, and I'm going to be watching at this Legion show to see what he's able to put together here. Now, next up in the news, I want to talk about Bryan Jones. Bryan Jones, classic physique competitor. Last year, he was able to place 5th, top 5, first call-out at the Classic Physique Olympia. A lot of people talking about him this year as a potential threat to the title. Now, that didn't really pan out the way that we thought it would. At the Arnold Classic, Bryan Jones wound up tying his Olympia placing, getting 5th at the Arnold. But at the Olympia this year, he would drop 4 placings to 9th place, from 5th to 9th, ultimately leading to the decision to switch over to men's open bodybuilding, which I think is a very interesting move, considering the fact that, a lot of the conversation around his physique has been he's one of the biggest guys in Classic. He's one of the roundest, fullest, crazy muscle bellies in that division. He's a big, big dude for Classic, and maybe having to meet those weight requirements is a struggle for him. Maybe that throws his physique off, and maybe he's got one of those physiques that just wants to grow and get bigger. Now, he's a guy that reminds me a lot of like a Cedric McMillan type of physique. He's pretty young. I think he's got a lot of potential. And this is the kind of stuff that's exciting to see in the sport. These crossovers, like Sean Clarita crossing over to men's open bodybuilding, this crossover for him from Classic to bodybuilding. These are the things that make the sport exciting. These crossovers are really cool. Anything can happen. And then you have these guys bringing something new to those divisions, like Sean Clarita bringing a smaller physique but a really, really conditioned physique to men's open bodybuilding. Bryan Jones bringing a classic aesthetic physique, but he's also got the size for men's open bodybuilding. So kind of bringing something new from the divisions they came from is one of the cool elements of those crossovers. And the guy is clearly genetically gifted. We've seen successful crossovers before from Classic Physique to 212. Keon Pearson and, may he rest in peace, George Peterson. They were very successful at switching over. They had great physiques, bringing those classic attributes to the new division and doing really well. Could Bryan Jones be able to do this? Because unlike Keon and George, he's a little bit taller than them. He's a taller guy that could maybe fit into the open class instead of 212, because that's probably a weight cap that he doesn't want to have to meet, being a guy the size that he is. Now, I believe Bryan is going to take about a year to put on some size and fill out for that division, so it'll probably be a while before we see him on an open stage. But let me know what you guys think. How do you think Bryan is going to do as a men's open pro bodybuilder? Now, next up in the news, I'm a little bit late on this, but I saw this today, the Michael Krizo thing. This was posted on the Buys and Tries Instagram page. They've got a lot of good, juicy gossip on the Buys and Tries page. Michael Krizo constantly talking on social media, this time kind of bad-mouthing the Olympia a little bit. And he's kind of responding to comments and saying, fans aren't judges. Judges in the NPC are crazy and blind. The Mr. Universe is better than the Mr. Olympia. He says, what is the Olympia? I don't need money. I'm very rich. For me, $400,000 isn't money. Then he also says, I'm making history outside of the Mr. Olympia. So I saw that he was getting a lot of hate for these comments, and I wanted to play devil's advocate a little bit, because one of the things that he said is that $400,000 isn't a lot of money to him. That might very well be true, because in the IFBB Elite Pro, which is the division that he's in, the league that he's in, he's pretty much their biggest and best star. So I would hope and I would imagine that he's being compensated and paid very well to stay in that organization and to compete in those competitions and not leave. So I wouldn't doubt that he is paid very well in that division. He's the best guy over there. But that is kind of my other point. He's the best guy over there, and he's the best guy over there by a long shot. I don't think the competition is really close to him. I mean, there's like one or two guys that might be a little bit close to him, but other than those one or two guys, Krizo is like way ahead of the pack. So yeah, he might be crushing it over there. He might be constantly winning shows, the Mr. Universe included. He might be getting paid very well. But I really think if he wants to go down in history as one of the best bodybuilders of all time, he has to compete in the IFBB Pro League. This is where the best bodybuilders in the world are. And while I do believe that Michael Krizo could hang with the bodybuilders over here, I do think he has a world-class physique, and I do think he could stand on stage with the best of the best. I think he needs to prove that and do that over here to really make history. Can he make history outside of the Olympia? Maybe a little bit. But I think 50 years down the line, the names that will really be remembered from this era of bodybuilding will be the Olympians, the competitors from the Olympia around this time. Not the guys that were doing, some federations outside. I really think that the Pro League and the Olympia and the Arnold, these are the shows that are going to be around for a long time in the vast future. In some of these outlier organizations and outlier shows, they might not make it. But look, the way I see it, in my opinion on it, is Krizo's doing what he's got to do. He's got to keep his name in the conversation. He's got to stay relevant. He's got to talk on social media. I'm hoping that he's only doing that until he's able to come over and compete on the Olympia stage. I'm hoping that this is all hype for eventually coming over to the IFBB Pro League. This would make it very interesting if that is his plan. It seems like he doesn't want that, or he at least is alluding to that not being his plan, but I'm hoping that is what it is. Otherwise, what's the point? The Mr. Universe, for example, that Krizo won, I looked at some of the pictures and videos from that competition, and I don't mean to be rude, but some of those other competitors, they couldn't beat the last place guy at the Olympia. The caliber of competition is just not the same. I don't know. I'm still holding on to hope that one day we're going to see him on an IFBB Pro stage, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, yes, I saw Iain Valliere's story that so many of you guys have sent to me and been sending me screenshots of. Essentially, somebody asked him if he's a fan. He says no. He thinks I'm not a supporter of bodybuilding, and he thinks I'm not what the industry needs, and I cause too much negativity. I do little to uplift and promote the bodybuilding industry. Blah, blah, blah. So that's what he says. Great. He's entitled to his opinion. I just want to direct you guys to what he said 2 months ago in August when he was asked what he thought of my channel. And he says he likes it. He does a good job with his channel is what he said. Nothing negative to say 2 months ago. Now, I only point that out to say what happened in between then and now. The Arnold Classic happened. The Arnold Classic where he took second place. And in my Arnold Classic recap, I said I was surprised that he took second place and I would have had Steve Kuklo in second. My theory is he just doesn't like the criticism that I give him, so then he doesn't like my channel. And look, that's fine. I don't expect anybody, any of these pros, to like my channel. They don't need to. I don't need them to like my channel. But look, if the reason that you don't like me is that you want me to compliment you more or be more complimentary of your physique, then just say that. Don't say that I don't support bodybuilding, that I don't promote bodybuilding, because I do. And everybody knows I do. Everybody knows I'm a fan of bodybuilding. Everybody knows my channel promotes bodybuilding to a very wide audience. And I also think everybody knows that I've never really said anything bad about Iain. I've certainly had criticism here and there of his conditioning or whatever it was, but I actually don't think I've been harsh at all about anything I've ever said about Iain, to be completely honest. So that's all. It's the last time I'm going to address it. I did see it. A ton of you guys sent it to me, so I wanted to address it. Look, 2 months ago he said I'm doing a good job with the channel, and now after the Arnold, I'm not. But look, I still don't have beef with him. I like him. I think he looked good at the Olympia this year. I think he looked good at the Olympia last year. I've got no problem with the guy. I think it's kind of funny at this point. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And like I said, like the video. It helps out a lot. It gets us back into the algorithm. I know I took a few days off, so we got to get some likes on this video to get us back into that algorithm. So that's it. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.